Ephesians chapter 5. And we are going to look at a couple of verses tonight, make some application. I wanted to, just for today, stick with the theme of the new year, because if I am being very transparent, we have two crowds on any given Sunday. You've got a Sunday morning crowd, and then you have the people that are a little bit more serious about their Bible study. And so I believe that deserves two different messages. I believe that you should probably be a little bit further along than needing just these little things of, we need to come. Guess what? You're here, right? You're here. And so let's think about some things that go along with the new year. Sticking with the same theme as this morning, our days are numbered, right? And so we need to do something with that time, and that's what we see here in Ephesians chapter 5. Let's look at two verses, verses 15 and 16. It says, "Look therefore carefully how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil." And so let's think about some things here. Now, the first thing that we want to notice is it deserves a careful walk. Look, therefore, carefully how ye walk. There's definitely a lesson here for all of us. How do you walk? You need to walk as wise people, not as unwise. I saw a video the other day, and there's a channel on Instagram where people are walking their dogs, and the dog sees a snake way before the people do, and the dog always is like veering off and trying to save the owners, right? And it was interesting because the first one I saw was this dog sees a rattlesnake right in the middle of the sidewalk, right in the middle, and then the dog veers off and is on a leash and is like trying to pull their owner away from the snake. Has actually gone through a like a cast iron fence, and the owner's having some struggles, and they actually, with their back turned to the snake, walk by the snake, never seeing it the whole time. The dog is frantically trying to pull them away. They never see the snake. And if you have ever been out in the woods with people, sometimes you'll come across snakes, and there's been several times when I've been hiking with friends that nobody ever sees it, and then one person goes, "Well, look, there's a snake," and everybody's like, "I just walked right past it." And that can be kind of a scary thing. Well, you got to be careful how you walk. You can't just walk flippantly around, not worried about anything going on in your life. You've got to be careful in your walk. As Christians, we are people that should be living to a higher standard. And so, we should be very careful in how we walk, because we got the standard of Christ to look up to. We're trying to follow after Him, and so we see that we need to have a careful walk. The issue isn't just how you talk or what you claim, but in what you do, and that's the idea of walking. The idea of carefully, of course, here means that you are intentional in your walk. You're not drifting away, right? There are times when we might, go out, we're in a new place, and we start walking around only to realize, man, we don't even really know where we are. That's not the kind of idea that we should have in our spiritual lives. We should be on alert, making sure that we know what we're doing. You think about the context here. Look at verse 8 in the context. It says, well, let's back up to verse, actually, let's back up a couple of verses. Actually, let's go way back here. Verse 1. Be ye therefore imitators of God as beloved children, and walk in love, even as Christ also loved you, and gave himself up for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for an odor of a sweet smell. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not even be named among you, as becometh saints. So, what all these things, it shouldn't be named among you. This is something that we need to understand. And I've been a part of congregations, and I preached for congregations where there were struggles in this area, and there's something going on in the congregation that is unrighteous. And this verse tells us that it shouldn't even be named among you, that these kind of things shouldn't be, that Christians ought to be living to a higher standard, right? And then it goes on to say, nor filthiness, nor foolish talking or jesting, which are not befitting, but rather giving of thanks. For this ye know of a surety, that no fornicator, nor unclean person, nor covetous man who is an idolater, hath any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and God. Let no man deceive you with empty words, for because of these things cometh the wrath of God upon the sons of disobedience. Be not ye therefore partakers with them. So these people that are doing all these things, don't do it. Do not live like them. That is not what you're supposed to do as a Christian. Get away from those things. It's not supposed to be named among you. Get away from all this filthiness. Now, all the foolish talking and the coarse jesting, all those things, get it away from you. It's not befitting of saints. Verse 8, for you were once darkness, but are now light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. Now, so, there was a time in each of our lives that at one point in time, we chose sin. Maybe it is that you were baptized at a young age. Well, at some point in time, you had to choose sin in order to become a Christian. You had to be able to repent of something, right? So at some point in time, you chose sin. We all did. Every single one of us. And at that point in time, we were once darkness. We didn't have salvation. We didn't have anything. We didn't have that hope of heaven, not yet. But when we decided to be baptized into Christ, when we heard that gospel plan of salvation, to hear, believe, repent, confess, and be baptized, well, guess what? Then that changed everything. Now you are light. Darkness is gone. You are now light. And so, walk as children of light. And so then when you get into walking, you go back to verse 15. Look therefore carefully how you walk. You're not going to walk in darkness. You're going to walk in light. Now, we see something else here. It says, be careful how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise. There's all kinds of understandings of this kind of a thought process. But what is wisdom? There used to be a time when if someone were to ask me that question, I'd be like, well, I guess what is wisdom? Is that like knowing something? Well, no, knowing something is a part of it. What is wisdom? Wisdom is being able to apply that knowledge. Now, I know I've given this to you before, but my favorite quote on this is, knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in fruit salad, okay? That is what it is, right? You've got knowledge, but you have to apply it, right? We have to take the things that we know and apply it. I tell you what, this may be a little bit more of a personal opinion here. I think I could make a better argument saying that this is how all preaching needs to be. But, it drives me crazy when people preach And they talk and they talk and they talk and they talk and they talk, and they don't tell you anything about how it applies to your life, how you need to change, how you need to live. I sit through that and I go, what did we just do? Because the Scriptures are supposed to change us. And then, when you're thinking about this idea of walking in wisdom, how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that unless what? You know the Scriptures and you apply them. That's the only way to walk as wise people. And so walk as wise. You know, but here's what we do. This is what is wise. You see what's wise? Look, I love how if you're reading the Bible and you go and you find something and you go, man, I don't really know what this means. If you take a few minutes and kind of look in the context, it's usually right there. Now, how do I walk as a wise person? Verse 16. You do that by redeeming the time. Redeeming the time because the days are evil. You know, this term redeeming is an interesting one. It means to buy back. You know, I immediately think about Hosea. And what did he redeemed Gomer. He redeemed her. He bought her back. And on top of that, when he bought her back, he bought her for an exorbitant amount. When everybody else would they didn't want to do it. They were like, no, this is a dirty woman. And Hosea buys her back for way more than anybody else would have ever thought. And you look at what has happened with this redemption. You know, we've been redeemed. Right? We've been bought by the blood of Christ. We've been redeemed. Now, here's the thing. Has anybody ever read the Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis? Anybody? No hands? Oh, yeah, here we go. All right. Just kind of summarize things. You need to read it because it's really good. But when you look at this is a demon teaching a younger demon how to tempt Christians. The whole point is, hey, let's learn from this. This is how the demons would work. They want to take you away from God, and so it's an interesting read. But I've done little lessons on this before, and one time I did a lesson and I talked about that, like, hey, what would they do? And so here are some suggestions, right? Some suggestions about what it is that somebody that wants you to go away from God, what would they do? How would they get you? How would the devil get you to go away from God? Well, maybe they tell you the Bible's not real. Well, that's kind of dumb, right? Because you can actually pretty well go and show you that the Bible is from God. There's so much knowledge in the Scriptures. Nobody could have just put this thing together. That is a dumb one. So people would, these demons, if you will, would argue and go, that's not good enough. That's not it. Why don't we try to tell them there is no God then, right? There's no God. Oh, man, that's a tired one. Look around, people. Look around you. People know that there's a God if you just look around with your own two eyes, right? That's not a good one either. You go down a whole list of things and there's all these arguments. Well, why would you do that? No, that's it. And then here is the kicker. Ready? The kicker is this. Well, you can't tell them that there is no God. You can't tell them that the Bible isn't real. But you know what you can do is you can fill their time with things that are okay. You see? Fill their time. Maybe give them kids and let their kids be obsessed with sports. And then let the kids go to all these sporting events, right? And then they never come to services. Or maybe make them obsessed with something that maybe they'll come to services, but they'll never really serve God because they're always too busy trying to find something for themselves to do. And so they go and do that instead of having Bible studies, studying for themselves. That's the kind of thing the devil wants. The devil wants you to think, it's okay for me to do these things. There's nothing wrong with it. And you do so many things that fills up all of your time. It could be anything. It could be academics. It could be work. It could be anything that by itself is okay. And yet, when you put it to the extreme, then all of a sudden you have no real time for God. Oh, sure, you can come to worship, right? But outside of that, there's nothing left. There's no more time. You want to be wise? Redeem the time. I know I've told you this, and even in recent weeks, remember, I've said, when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else, right? And so there's a lot of opportunity to say yes. And sometimes the things that we say yes to are really good, but they keep you from saying yes to something more important. And so I think we all need to learn how to say no sometimes. No, I'm not going to do that. Say yes to serving God. Maybe say no to the PTA or whatever. Say yes to service to God. Say no to the extracurriculars. Here's the thing. We will fill our time with the things that are most important to us. We will. We'll talk about the things that are most important to us. We will absolutely do what we want to do. And so let's ask ourselves, do I want to serve God? Serving God means going to heaven, by the way. Do I want to serve God? Or do I just want to serve myself and check the boxes, right? What do I want to do? Here is a sober reason for all of this. Look at the end of verse 16. It says, because the days are evil. The world is not neutral. The world is not neutral on this subject. And you might go, well, why did Paul write this? Why did he say the days are evil? Aren't the days given to you by God? The days are evil because when you don't redeem the time, every day you are closer to death. And every day you may be drifting further and further away from God. And so, redeem the time as a wise person. In 1 Peter 5 and verse 8, it says, be watchful, be sober, actually. Be sober, be watchful. Why? Well, your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Redeem the time. Prepare yourself. If you were to think about this, you need to prepare yourself for the devil because he's looking for you, right? If you were, I love movies where the setting is outdoors and that there is some sort of a wild animal nearby, and people have to be on guard. Maybe it is like there's wolves or something, something that's cool to me. I like that stuff, You got to be careful, right? You're always looking around, always checking around, make sure that you're not going to be eaten alive, right? Now, if you know that this is a possibility, what are you going to do? And you're going to be watchful, right? Yeah, you're going to be prepared, right? Well, the devil is walking about seeking you. He wants to devour you. And so you need to prepare. What would you do to prepare yourself for the devil? What would you do? Would you sit around and go, you know what, I'm kind of comfortable the way I've been doing things? Or would you arm yourself, right? I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but this is probably one of the more interesting things to happen to me as a preacher. I was in Florida, and we worked with this very small congregation. We lived in a house right next door, maybe 50 yards to the church building. And we had a yard sale at our house, borrowed some tables from the church building, and I had, taken some boxes earlier that day that, from this yard sale, and I burnt them right over, between our house and the fellowship hall. And I was taking these tables back, and it was nighttime. I was taking these tables back, and I was carrying them over to the building, and it was a process because I'd carry this table, I'd get over to the building. There wasn't really a way to keep the door open, so I'd have to open the door, put the table down, open the door, put it in, set it back up where it went, and this process took quite a bit of time. It was a full moon, and I remember just kind of looking at that ash pile of all the boxes that I had burnt earlier that day, and I was looking for it because I didn't want to track it into the church building. I didn't want to track it back into my house, and so I walked around, and I kept doing this, and I was getting tired, and I decided that, you know what, I'm going to walk through that pile because it was a straight line. And so I put my foot in that ash pile, and I remember looking down, making a perfect footprint, and looked like I just stepped on the moon, right, from, what they show on TV. And so I was like, oh, man, so I went in, I went back, I got another table, and as I was walking back to the church building, I noticed that there was a giant paw print over that footprint I had just made. And they have Florida Panthers down there. Listen, I didn't have anything but a table with me, so I ran. I put that table up. I called Autumn. I told her what was going on. I didn't know where that thing was, but I took a running start from the other side of the fellowship hall, kicked the door open, sprinted to the house, ran inside, done. Animal control came out the next day, and sure enough, panther prints all over the place. Matter of fact, if I had been walking from over there to over there, these paw prints just followed my path about 10 feet away from me, just back and forth, just several big old paw prints. It was almost the size of my hand, And, I remember feeling like that was really scary, That was terrifying. Now, I didn't know. Now, there's never been an official Florida Panther attack on anybody, but I could have been the first, right? It was scary. If I'd known, right, I probably wouldn't have gone out. If I had gone out, I probably would have had something with me, right? I would have been prepared. Brethren, are we prepared when it comes to the devil? Are we walking wisely, redeeming the time, strengthening ourselves for the spiritual battle ahead? Are we doing that? All right. Verse 17. Wherefore, be ye not foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is. So, redeeming the time isn't just merely making a better schedule for yourself, right? It's not I'm just going to just gonna fix things. I'm gonna, maybe every morning I get up and as I'm drinking my cup of coffee, I read a chapter of the Bible. That's good, but that's not really what this is talking about. It means more than that. You think about this idea of understanding the will of the Lord. So be not foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is. And see, you redeem the time and you look for the things of God. I think about this psalm a lot. I think there's probably many people that think about this psalm a lot. But the very first psalm, you look at what it says there. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, right? What all these things, why? His delight is where? It's in the law of the Lord. He loves the law of the Lord. He's going to go and he's going to seek after the law of the Lord. He's going to meditate on it how often? Day and night. In Matthew 6 and verse 33 it says this. But seek ye first, what? His kingdom and His righteousness. And all these things, those things that we worry about, things that we shouldn't worry about, but we do anyway, right? All these things shall be added unto you. And so, brethren, the simple plea is redeem the time by studying the will of God and applying it to your life so you can walk as wise. If you are in need of the invitation, if you've not yet become a child of God, this is your opportunity. Please come right now as we stand and as we sing.